Hello, I'm Kate. This is part 7 of this heart saga and all the events that happened this time a year ago. So in my last part, I just finished up where the cardiologist took me to see the ultrasound of my heart and the condition it was in, and made clear to me that I needed to have open heart surgery to repair the aortic valve that was being rapidly eaten up by the strep bacteria that I had. It's called endocarditis, and that is what they diagnosed me as. So I get back to my room and I'm a little bit shell-shocked with all of this. I called my husband right away. I called my parents, who had just gotten down to Florida to visit my sweet sister who had a baby a few months previous. They literally had just gotten to her house that morning, and I had to call them and say, they knew I was in the hospital, that I was getting antibiotics, and they offered to turn right around mid-drive and come back. And I said, oh, don't even bother. I'm just going to get antibiotics. I'll be here for a long weekend, and then I'll go home, enjoy time with my sister. And then I had to call them the next day and be like, so change of plans. They actually are going to operate on me, and I'm going to have to go through open heart surgery. So they turned right around. They drove through the night and got back home to me, which is totally like my parents. So I'm sitting in my hospital room and I don't have any insurance, and I'm thinking, how in the world I'm gonna have to declare bankruptcy. I don't even know how. I don't know the ins and outs of declaring bankruptcy, but I'm gonna have to do that because if I wasn't financially destitute already, this will make me. And I don't know, how does one financially recover from having no insurance and having to go through open heart surgery? The hospital insurance gal comes up to my room and we talk for a little bit, and then she connects me with the state insurance. And I had applied a few times for state insurance. I was a single mom at the time, working several jobs to try and make ends meet. And I always would get denied any time I would try and apply. It turns out I made just a couple $100 over what the income limit was. But over the last 2 months of being so sick, I wasn't working as much as I had used to. So my income was declining. And so I talked with a gal on the phone for probably 45 minutes to explain the whole situation. We went through all the ins and outs of my income and what it, and I remember her saying, so they're still going to operate on you with no insurance. And I said, and she didn't know everything that I was what I was diagnosed with, that she just knew I was needing insurance. And I said, I'm pretty sure I'll die if they don't. And she said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Let me figure this out. And let me work on some things, and I'll give you a call in a little bit. And so we hung up, and in that time I'm Googling, how do you declare bankruptcy? What do you have to do? What does that look like? All this stuff. And then she calls me back about an hour later and she says, I got you covered. And it's backdated for the month before because your income was so low for that month as well. And I've got you covered. And it was just a breath of fresh air. I know so many people go through these health things with insurance, but crappy insurance or whatnot. And I was just, it was not an ideal circumstance, obviously, a freak illness, a freak surge, all these things, nothing went right. But I was so thankful in that moment that I got covered. And my heart goes out to people who have similar situations and crappy insurance and are on the hook for it. It's really sad. And this could be a whole different post about, the healthcare in our country and how it needs rapid reform. But in that moment, I just was so thankful.